cabin door stood half open, a narrow line of darkness bleeding through the frame, and in that darkness, something moved. Not wind, not shadows, something else, something that had been waiting in those Pennsylvania woods for a very long time. Few people know what really happens in the forgotten corners of Pennsylvania, the places too remote for cell service, too quiet for questions, the mountains that swallow sound, the valleys where fog never lifts, the towns where people vanish and no one talks about why. This is what happened to 8 people who thought they understood fear. They were wrong. Before we go deeper into the darkness, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because here at Chills from Reality, every story leaves a mark, one you might not forget. And tonight, these marks run deep. Number 8, the thing that watched from Centralia's smoke. Sarah Chen was 26 when she moved to Centralia. Most people thought she was crazy. Centralia wasn't a town anymore. Not really. It was a grave, a monument to disaster. In 1962, a coal mine caught fire beneath the streets. The fire never stopped. It's still burning today. 60 years of flames eating through the earth. The government evacuated everyone, bought their houses, condemned the land. But a handful of people stayed, stubborn, defiant, living above an inferno that would outlive them all. Sarah needed cheap rent and isolation. She was a freelance writer, horror fiction ironically. She thought the atmosphere would inspire her. The town had 8 residents when she arrived, all elderly, all strange. They barely spoke to her, just watched from their windows as she moved into the old caretaker's house at the edge of what used to be the main street. The house was small, 1 bedroom, peeling paint, but it was hers, and the rent was almost nothing. The ground was warm beneath her feet. Steam rose from cracks in the pavement. The air smelled like sulfur and ash. At night, the temperature dropped, but the earth stayed hot, like standing on the skin of something living, something vast and angry beneath the surface. Sarah told herself it was just the fire, just chemistry, just nature doing what nature does. But nature doesn't watch you. Nature doesn't wait. The first night, she heard footsteps on her roof, slow, measured, like someone pacing. She'd lived in old houses before. She knew the sounds of settling wood and shifting foundations. This wasn't that. This was deliberate, heel to toe, back and forth, directly above her bedroom. She grabbed a flashlight and went outside. The roof was empty, just shingles and satellite dish. But in the mist, the smoke that rose constantly from the ground, she saw something, a shape, tall, impossibly tall, standing at the edge of her property line, where her yard met the dead forest. It didn't move, just stood there, a silhouette in the fog. Sarah called out. Her voice sounded small, swallowed by the smoke. The figure didn't respond, didn't turn, didn't acknowledge her in any way. She went back inside, locked the door, checked the windows. She didn't sleep that night, just lay in bed, listening to the footsteps above, pacing, pacing, pacing. When dawn came, they stopped. The second night, the footsteps returned. Same pattern, same rhythm, but this time, they stopped directly above her bed. She could hear breathing, shallow, ragged, like someone struggling for air. She grabbed her phone. No signal. Centralia was a dead zone. She'd known that. It's why she came. No distractions, no interruptions, just her and the work. But now, lying in the dark, listening to something breathe above her, She wished for the noise of the city, the comfort of crowds. She went outside again. This time, she brought a kitchen knife. The yard was empty, but the figure was there, in the smoke, closer now, 20 feet from her door, still not moving, still watching. She could see more detail now. It was a man, or had been, tall, thin, wearing clothes that looked decades old, work clothes, coveralls, the kind miners used to wear. But his face, she couldn't see his face. The smoke was too thick. Or maybe there was no face to see. Sarah went back inside. She pushed her dresser against the door, stacked chairs against the windows. She sat in the corner of her bedroom with the knife in her lap, waiting for morning. The breathing continued, above her, around her, coming from the walls, from the floor, from the hot earth beneath the house. She started to wonder if the sound was even real, if maybe she was just hearing the fire, the constant combustion, the slow burn eating through coal seams deep below. But fire doesn't breathe. Fire doesn't pace. Fire doesn't watch. The third night, the figure appeared at her window. She was sitting at her desk trying to write, trying to pretend everything was normal. The cursor blinked on her laptop screen. No words came, and then she felt it, the sensation of being watched. She turned slowly. He was there, pressed against the glass, face inches from hers. She saw him clearly now. His skin was pale, gray, like ash. His eyes were wide, too wide, pupils blown, mouth hanging open. But he wasn't breathing, wasn't blinking, just staring with an intensity that felt like heat, like standing too close to flame. Sarah screamed, fell backward out of her chair. When she looked again, he was gone. Just the window, fogged from the inside. But on the glass, on the outside, were handprints, gray, ashen, like he'd pressed both palms against the window and pushed. She grabbed her laptop, her keys, her phone. She didn't pack, didn't think, just ran to her car and drove. She didn't stop until she was 3 towns away, until the smoke was gone, until the ground beneath her feet was cold again. She never went back to Centralia, never collected her things, never called the landlord. She just left. But sometimes, late at night, when her apartment is quiet, she hears it, the pacing, above her, in buildings that only have 1 floor. And sometimes, when the fog is thick, she sees him, standing across the street, watching her window, waiting for her to come back to the smoke, back to the fire, back to whatever waits beneath the burning ground. The house still stands in Centralia, empty now, windows dark. But locals, the 8 who remain, they avoid that property. They cross the street when they walk past, and on certain nights, when the wind is right, they swear they can see someone on the roof, pacing, waiting, watching the road for headlights that will never come. Number 7, the voices that followed from Gettysburg. Michael Torres was a history teacher. He'd visited Gettysburg dozens of times, walked every inch of the battlefield, read every book, watched every documentary. He thought he knew the place, thought he understood the weight of what happened there. 50,000 casualties in 3 days, the ground soaked in blood, the air thick with death. But knowing history isn't the same as feeling it, isn't the same as hearing it. And Michael was about to hear things no history book could prepare him for. It was October. He was documenting the battlefield for a school project, a multimedia presentation on the Civil War. He had permission to stay after hours, after the tourists left. after the park rangers went home. Just him, a camera, a tripod, and the empty fields where thousands of men died screaming. He'd done this before, taken sunset photos, captured the golden light on monuments, but he'd never stayed until dark, never stayed until the battlefield became what it truly was, a graveyard without stones, a wound that never healed. The sun set fast, faster than he expected. One moment, the sky was orange, the next, black. No streetlights, no moon, just stars and the distant glow of the town beyond the trees. He set up his camera near the Virginia Memorial, pointed it toward the field where Pickett's charge ended, where hundreds died in minutes, mowed down by rifle fire, torn apart by cannonballs. He pressed record, and that's when he heard them. Voices, hundreds of voices, whispering, all at once. He couldn't make out words, just sound, like a crowd murmuring, like a theater full of people talking before a show. But there was no crowd, no people, just Michael, alone in the dark. He turned off the camera. The voices continued. He turned it back on. They got louder, closer, surrounding him. He spun in place, looking for speakers, for tourists playing pranks, for any rational explanation. But the field was empty, just grass and monuments and the distant tree line, and the voices coming from everywhere, coming from nowhere, coming from the ground itself. Michael started walking toward his car. He didn't run, not yet. He was still telling himself it was fine, that it was wind, or audio pareidolia, the brain finding patterns in random noise. But then he saw them, figures standing in the field, 20, 30, 50, more appearing every second, soldiers in full uniform, Union and Confederate, standing exactly where they fell, not moving, not fighting, just standing, staring at him, faces pale, eyes hollow, mouths open like they were about to speak. Michael ran. The voices exploded, screaming now, shouting, orders barked, men crying for help, for mothers, for God. The sound was deafening, overwhelming, like standing inside a stadium at full roar. He reached his car, fumbled with his keys, dropped them, picked them up, got inside, started the engine. He looked in his rearview mirror. The figures were closer, dozens of them, walking toward his car, slow, purposeful, not running, just advancing, like a line of infantry, moving as one. He drove, fast, too fast. The voices followed, pouring through his vents, his speakers, his phone, everywhere, screaming, begging, dying. He turned off his radio, turned off his phone. The voices continued. He rolled down the windows. The night air rushed in, cold, silent. But inside the car, the voices remained, trapped with him, following him. He drove for an hour before they finally faded, before the silence returned, before he could breathe again. When he got home, he reviewed the footage. The entire recording was silent, just empty fields, no voices, no figures, nothing. But there was one frame, just one, a single frame in 20 minutes of footage, a face, inches from the camera, eyes wide, mouth open, frozen in a scream. Michael deleted the file, threw away the SD card, quit his job. He never went back to Gettysburg, never taught Civil War history again. He moved to the West Coast, started over, tried to forget. But sometimes, late at night, when his apartment is quiet, he hears them, the voices, faint, distant, whispering just below the threshold of hearing. And sometimes, when he closes his eyes, he sees them, the soldiers standing in his room, watching him sleep, waiting for him to come back, to bear witness, to remember what they cannot forget. Number 6, the door that shouldn't exist in Harrisburg. Jamie Reese was 32 when she bought the row house in Harrisburg. It was a foreclosure, cheap, in decent shape, the kind of deal that made people suspicious. But Jamie had looked at the inspection report, had walked through twice, had checked for mold and foundation cracks and roof damage. Everything seemed fine. The previous owner had left suddenly. Medical emergency, the realtor said. Moved to Florida to be with family. Didn't want to deal with selling. Just wanted out. Jamie thought she understood. Sometimes life happens fast. Sometimes you have to leave everything behind and start over. The house was tall and narrow and 3 stories. Basement, attic, built in 1890, brick facade, original hardwood floors. It had character, history. Jamie loved that. She was a graphic designer, worked from home. She didn't need much space, just a quiet place to think, to create. The house felt right until she went to the basement. The stairs were steep, wooden. They creaked under her weight. The air was cold, heavy. It smelled like wet concrete and rust and something else, something organic, decay. But not rotten food, not dead animals, something older, deeper. She reached the bottom. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor, exposed beams, a water heater in one corner, storage shelves along one wall, and on the far wall, a door. It was small, maybe 5 feet tall, old wood, no handle, no lock, just a door frame built into the concrete. Jamie didn't remember seeing it in the listing photos. She pulled out her phone, scrolled through the images. No basement photos. Odd, but not alarming. Basements didn't sell houses. She walked toward the door. Each step felt heavier, like the air was thickening, pressing against her. The temperature dropped. She could see her breath. In September, in a basement. She reached the door, touched it. The wood was cold, wet, like it was sweating. And through the gap at the bottom, air poured out. Cold air, moving, like something breathing. She tried the door. It didn't budge. No handle to turn, no hinges to pop. It was solid, immovable, like it was part of the wall itself. But the air kept coming, cold, steady, and with it, a sound, faint, rhythmic, like breathing, deep, slow, in and out. Jamie stepped back. She told herself it was ventilation, an old HVAC system, something mechanical. But mechanisms didn't breathe, didn't pulse, didn't feel alive. She went upstairs, called the realtor, got voicemail. She tried the previous owner. The number was disconnected. She searched the property records, found an address in Florida, sent an email. No response. 3 days later, she tried calling again. This time, someone answered. An old man, voice shaking. He asked who she was. She told him. He went silent for a long time. Then he spoke. 3 words, "Don't open it," and hung up. Jamie tried to forget. She focused on work, on unpacking, on making the house feel like home. But every night, she heard sounds from the basement, tapping, scratching, footsteps, slow, dragging, like someone walking in circles. She told herself it was pipes, settling foundation, animals in the walls. But the sounds had rhythm, pattern, purpose, and they always came from behind the door. A week after moving in, she went back down. She needed to know, needed to understand. She brought a crowbar, a flashlight, a hammer. She wedged the crowbar into the door frame, pulled. The wood splintered. The door shifted. Cold air rushed out. So cold it hurt. Like opening a freezer, like stepping into winter. She pulled harder. The door swung open, and behind it was a tunnel, long, dark, sloping down into the earth. The walls were dirt, shored up with old wooden beams. The floor was stone, worn smooth, like something had been walking on it for decades, for centuries. Jamie shined her flashlight down the tunnel. The beam didn't reach the end, just vanished into darkness, and in that darkness, something moved. She heard it, footsteps, fast, running, toward her. She slammed the door, pushed against it. Something hit from the other side. Hard. The door shook. She heard breathing, right on the other side, right against the wood, heavy, wet, and then a voice, low, rasping, "Let me out." Jamie ran upstairs. She grabbed nails, boards, power tools. She went back down. The door was vibrating, shaking in its frame. She nailed it shut. 2x4s across the frame, screws every inch. She didn't stop until she'd used an entire box. The door went still. The breathing stopped. Silence. Jamie backed away. She slept on the couch that night, with the lights on, with her phone in her hand, ready to call 911. But for what? What would she say? That something was in her basement? That something wanted out? She moved out a week later, broke her lease, lost her deposit. She didn't care. She left the house and never looked back. But sometimes, late at night, she wonders what was behind that door, what was in the tunnel, where did it lead, and what was down there, waiting in the dark, breathing, scratching, begging to be let out. The house is still there, still for sale. The price keeps dropping. No one stays. No one lasts more than a month. And if you go to the basement, if you stand very still, you can hear it, the breathing, the tapping, the voice behind the door, asking, begging, pleading, "Let me out, let me out, let me out." Number 5, the man with no face on the Carbondale Trail. It started in March. 3 hikers disappeared near the same trail outside Carbondale. The trail wasn't popular, too steep, too remote, but it had views, waterfalls, the kind of places people posted on Instagram. The first hiker was a man in his 20s. He went out on a Saturday morning. His car was found at the trailhead, phone inside, wallet, keys, backpack, like he'd just vanished mid-hike. Search and rescue found nothing. No tracks, no clothing, no body, just gone. The second hiker disappeared 2 weeks later. A woman in her 40s, experienced. She'd hiked that trail before. She texted her husband from the summit, said she was heading down, never arrived. Her phone pinged from the mountain for 3 days, then stopped. Search teams combed the area. Nothing, like the mountain swallowed her whole. The third hiker was an elderly man, retired. He went out in April. Same trail, same result. Car at the trailhead, no sign of him. The Park Service closed the trail, posted warnings, started an investigation, but they had nothing. No leads, no evidence, no pattern. Just 3 people gone. 3 people erased. Then Elise Taylor went missing. She was 28, a photographer. She'd heard about the disappearances, thought it would make a good story, a good photo essay, the mountain that swallows people. She went out on a Tuesday, told her roommate she'd be back by dark. She wasn't. Her roommate called the police. They found her car, searched the trail, called her name. No response. They were preparing for another failed search when Elise walked into town 3 days later, covered in mud, clothes torn, eyes wide, not blinking, not crying, just staring. The police took her to the hospital. She wouldn't speak, wouldn't eat, just sat in the bed, staring at the wall. They ran tests. no head trauma, no signs of assault, no drugs in her system. She was fine, physically, but something was wrong. Something was broken. The doctors called it shock, trauma, dissociation, but that wasn't it. Elise wasn't dissociated. She was terrified. It took 2 days before she spoke. A detective was in the room, asking gentle questions, trying to piece together what happened. And finally, Elise answered. Her voice was flat, hollow, like she was reading from a script. She'd been hiking alone. 2 miles in, she saw a man on the trail, tall, thin, wearing old clothes, work clothes, brown and stained. She'd called out, a greeting, a friendly hello. He'd turned around, and Elise stopped walking, stopped breathing, stopped processing what she was seeing, because his face wasn't there. Not covered, not hidden, not turned away, just not there. Smooth skin, unbroken, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, no features at all, just blank, like someone had erased his face, or like he'd never had one. Elise stood frozen, her brain trying to make sense of what she was seeing, trying to rationalize, trying to explain, and the man, the thing, started walking toward her, slow, silent. No footsteps, no breathing, just movement, gliding across the trail like he was floating. Elise ran. She left the trail, crashed through the woods, branches tearing at her clothes, roots catching her feet. She fell, got up, fell again, and he followed. She couldn't hear him, couldn't see him, but she knew she could feel him behind her, always behind her, never faster, never slower, just there, matching her pace, a presence that wouldn't let go. She found a cave, small, hidden behind a rock formation. She crawled inside, pulled herself into the deepest corner, and waited. She could hear her own heartbeat, her own breathing, nothing else. Minutes passed, hours. She didn't know. Time felt wrong, stretched. And then she saw him, standing at the mouth of the cave, silhouetted against the daylight, the man with no face. He stood there, not moving, not entering, just waiting, like he had all the time in the world, like he knew she'd have to come out eventually. Elise closed her eyes. She prayed. She cried. She passed out. When she woke, he was gone. The cave was empty. The sun was setting. She crawled out, ran, followed the sound of traffic, made it to the road, flagged down a car. The driver took one look at her and called the police. She was safe. She was alive. But when they asked where she'd been, she couldn't remember, couldn't explain. The only thing she remembered clearly was his face, or the absence of it, that smooth, blank, impossible surface where a face should be. And the words. She remembered words. She'd found them when she woke up in the cave, carved into the rock beside her head, fresh, deep, like someone had spent hours etching them. 3 words. You saw me. Elise left Pennsylvania the next day. She didn't pack, didn't say goodbye, just got in her car and drove. She lives in California now, changes her phone number every few months, never hikes, never goes into the woods, because she knows he's still there, on that trail, waiting for the next person to see him, for the next person to run, for the next person to understand. Some things should never be seen. The trail is still closed. The Park Service won't say why, won't confirm or deny the stories, but locals know. They've seen the reports, the missing people, and some of them, late at night, when the bars are closing, they'll tell you what they've seen. A man on the trail, tall, thin, wearing old clothes, standing perfectly still, watching the road, waiting for someone brave enough or stupid enough to walk into the woods alone. If this story made your heart race, hit that like button and subscribe. Because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. We're only halfway through, and the next stories go deeper, darker, into places where the light doesn't reach, and where the things that wait don't have faces, don't have names, don't have mercy. Number 4, the calls from a dead woman in Pittston. Marcus Webb started getting the calls in July, late at night, always after midnight, always the same pattern. His phone would ring, a local number, Pittston area code. He'd answer, silence, just breathing, heavy, wet, like someone drowning. He'd say hello. The breathing would continue. Then the call would end. He thought it was a prank. Kids, wrong number. He blocked it. The calls kept coming. Different numbers, all local, all at night, all the same breathing. After a week, he stopped answering. Let them go to voicemail. The voicemails were worse, long, minutes of silence. And then, at the very end, a voice, a woman, whispering, "Help me." Just 2 words, desperate, terrified, broken. Marcus called the police. They traced the numbers, all disconnected, no longer in service. Some hadn't been active in 20 years. The detective asked if Marcus had enemies, ex-girlfriends, angry co-workers. Marcus said no. He was a pharmacist, quiet life, no drama. The detective said he'd look into it. Nothing came of it. The calls continued. Every night, always after midnight, the voice got clearer. "Help me, please, I'm still here." Marcus asked where. The next voicemail answered, the mine, the old mine in Pittston. Marcus knew the place. Everyone in Pittston did. The Knox Mine, site of the worst mining disaster in Pennsylvania history. January 1959. The Susquehanna River broke through the mine shaft, flooded the tunnels. 12 men died, trapped, drowned, buried under millions of gallons of water. The mine was sealed, condemned, forgotten. Marcus drove there. The entrance was still sealed. Concrete, rusted chains, warning signs. He walked the perimeter, called out. No response. Just wind and the distant sound of the river. He went home. That night, the call came again, but this time, the voice was different. It wasn't asking for help anymore. It was laughing, soft, slow, building, growing louder, echoing, like it was coming from a tunnel, from deep underground. Marcus threw his phone across the room. The laughter continued, coming from his laptop, his TV, his car radio, everywhere, following him, surrounding him. He went to the police again, brought recordings, showed them the voicemails. The detective listened, went pale. He recognized the voice. He pulled out a file, an old missing persons case, a woman named Catherine Novak. She disappeared in 1983, last seen near the old mine. Her car was found. She wasn't. No body, no evidence, no leads. The case went cold. But the family kept calling, kept asking, kept hoping, until they didn't, until they accepted she was gone. The detective played Marcus a recording, Catherine's voice, from an old interview before she vanished. It was identical, the same voice, the same cadence, the same desperate tone. But Catherine Novak had been gone for 40 years. She'd be in her 70s now, if she was alive, which she wasn't, couldn't be. The detective closed the file, told Marcus there was nothing he could do, told him to change his number, move if he had to. Some things, he said, don't have explanations. Marcus changed his number. The calls stopped for 3 days. Then they started again. New number, same voice, same pattern. But now, there were other voices, men, screaming, begging, drowning, the 12 miners, the ones who died when the river broke through. They were calling too, all of them, trapped, forgotten, reaching out from whatever dark place holds the dead. Marcus couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't function. He took a leave from work, checked into a hotel. The calls followed. He drove to another city. They followed. He drove to another state. They followed. There was no escape, no distance far enough. The dead don't care about borders, don't respect geography. They just want to be heard, want to be remembered, want someone to know they're still there, still suffering, still waiting in the dark. Marcus came back to Pittston. He stood outside the mine, listened to his phone ring, answered, and this time he spoke. He said he heard them, said he believed them, said he was sorry. The voice went quiet. The breathing stopped. And for the first time in 3 months, the line went dead. Permanent, final, silence. Marcus hasn't received a call since, but he still checks his phone every night, waiting, afraid, because deep down, he knows the silence isn't peace, it's patience. The dead have all the time in the world, and maybe, just maybe, they're not done with him yet. Number 3, the reflection that wouldn't follow in Jim Thorpe. Lily Morrison and her friends rented a room at the historic inn in Jim Thorpe for a weekend getaway. The town was beautiful. Victorian architecture, narrow streets, fall colors, perfect for Instagram. The inn was over 100 years old, supposedly haunted, but that was part of the charm. The ghost stories, the creaking floors, the sense of history. Lily didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in old buildings and overactive imaginations. She believed in logical explanations. That belief lasted exactly one night. Her room was on the 3rd floor, small, cozy, a brass bed, antique furniture, and a large mirror by the door. Full-length, ornate frame, the kind of mirror you'd see in a museum. Lily unpacked, hung up her clothes, took photos. Everything was normal, perfect. She went to bed around midnight, woke up at 3 to use the bathroom, half asleep, not thinking. She passed the mirror on her way to the door and stopped. Her reflection was still in bed. She could see it, clear as day, lying on her side, eyes closed, sleeping. Lily turned around. The bed was empty, sheets pulled back, pillow indented, but no one there. She looked back at the mirror. Her reflection sat up, slowly, deliberately, and smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a warm smile, a knowing smile, like they shared a secret, like her reflection understood something Lily didn't. Lily ran, out of the room, down the hall, pounding on her friends' doors. They thought she was drunk, thought she was pranking them, but her hands were shaking, her face was white. She refused to go back to her room. One of her friends, Mark, volunteered to check. He went in, looked around. The room was empty, normal, nothing unusual. He checked under the bed, in the closet, behind the curtains, nothing. He looked at the mirror, saw his own reflection, just him, alone. He called Lily in. She stood in the doorway, wouldn't cross the threshold. Mark walked to the mirror, stood directly in front of it. And that's when Lily screamed, because in the mirror, her reflection was standing by the window, behind Mark, watching him. But in the real room, Lily was still at the door. Mark spun around, nothing by the window. He looked back at the mirror. Lily's reflection waved, slow, deliberate. Mark grabbed Lily, and they left. They checked out that morning, didn't wait for breakfast, didn't ask for a refund, just left. For weeks after, Lily avoided mirrors, all mirrors, bathroom, bedroom, store windows, car side mirrors, anything reflective, because sometimes, just sometimes, her reflection moved wrong, a second too late, or a second too early, like there was a delay, like her reflection was making its own decisions. And sometimes, when she caught herself off guard, in a mirror she didn't expect, her reflection would be smiling, that same smile, that knowing smile, like it was waiting, like it had plans, like it knew something was coming. She saw a therapist, was diagnosed with anxiety, prescribed medication. The therapist said it was stress, trauma, the brain playing tricks, creating patterns where there were none. Lily wanted to believe that, tried to believe that. But then, 3 months after Jim Thorpe, she woke up in the middle of the night, thirsty. She went to the kitchen, poured water, and in the dark window, she saw her reflection, standing in her living room. But Lily was in the kitchen, 10 feet away. The reflection tilted its head, smiled, and walked out of frame. Lily dropped the glass. It shattered. She ran to the living room, empty, no one there. But on her coffee table was a note, written in her handwriting, on her notebook, in her favorite pen. 4 words, "I'm coming for you." Lily moved the next week. New apartment, new city. She covered every mirror, threw away her phone because the black screen reflected, avoided windows at night. But she knows it doesn't matter, because whatever is in the mirror, whatever took her place that night in Jim Thorpe, is still there, still watching, still waiting, still learning. And one day, maybe soon, maybe tonight, it will step through, will cross over, will take her place completely, and Lily will be the one trapped, behind the glass, in the reflection, screaming, pounding, begging someone to notice that the person in front of the mirror isn't her anymore. Number 2, the bridge where the dead still climb near Altoona. The bridge outside Altoona has been abandoned for 30 years, rusted, forgotten, a relic of infrastructure that outlived its purpose. The state built a new bridge half a mile down the road, modern, safe, but the old bridge remained, too expensive to demolish, too remote to matter, so it just stayed, rotting, collapsing, waiting. Locals know not to go there, especially at night, especially alone. 5 people have died on that bridge, different years, different circumstances, but all the same way, standing on the edge, looking down at the water and jumping. No notes, no warnings, no explanations, just 5 people who walked onto that bridge and never walked off. Derek Palmer didn't know the history. He was new to the area, moved for work. His friends invited him to a party out in the woods, middle of nowhere. They had to park at the old bridge and walk. Derek's car broke down on the way. Engine died right at the bridge entrance. His friends went ahead, said they'd come back for him, said he should wait, but Derek was impatient. He decided to walk, cross the bridge, meet them on the other side. It was only a quarter mile. He'd be fine. The bridge was wide, stable enough. He stepped onto the old wood. It creaked under his weight, but held. He started walking. Halfway across, he heard something. A voice, calling from below, "Help, please, someone help." Derek stopped, leaned over the railing. The water was dark, reflecting the moon. He couldn't see anything, but the voice continued, louder, more desperate. "Help me, I'm down here, please." Derek called back. "Ask where, asked who." The voice responded, "Down here, in the water. I'm drowning, please." Derek pulled out his phone, called 911, but there was no signal. The bridge was a dead zone. He shouted that he'd get help, that he'd be right back, and that's when he saw it. A hand, pale, wet, reaching up from the water, grabbing the bridge support. Another hand, then another, dozens of them, crawling up the sides, fingers splayed, pulling, climbing, and behind them, faces emerging from the water, pale, bloated, eyes wide, mouths open, not breathing, not living, just climbing toward the bridge, toward him. Derek ran, but the hands were faster. They reached the deck, slapping against the wood, wet, heavy, so many. He could hear them, feel them, the bridge shaking, vibrating. He didn't look back, didn't stop. He reached the other side, solid ground. He turned around. The hands were gone. The water was still, like nothing happened, like he'd imagined it. But his friends found him collapsed on the ground, hyperventilating, crying. They took him to the hospital. Shock, the doctors said. Panic attack. But Derek's shoes were wet, and his ankles were bruised, ring-shaped bruises, like fingers had grabbed him, like something had tried to pull him down. Derek moved away from Altoona 3 days later, didn't finish the job, didn't pack his apartment, just left because he knows what's down there, under the bridge, in the water, waiting. The 5 who jumped, and how many others before them, how many over the decades, the centuries, how many people drowned in that river and were never found, never buried, never mourned. They're still there, still reaching, still climbing, still trying to pull themselves out or pull someone else in. The bridge is still there, still abandoned. But sometimes, late at night, drivers on a new bridge report seeing lights on the old one, figures moving, walking, standing at the edge. And sometimes, if you stop your car, if you roll down your window, if you listen very carefully, you can hear them, the voices, calling from below, begging, pleading, promising they just need help, just need a hand, just need someone to reach down, to pull them up, to save them. But if you go to that bridge, if you lean over that railing, if you reach down into the dark, you won't pull anyone up. You'll only give them something to hold, something to drag, something to take down with them into the cold, into the water, into the dark where the dead still wait, still climb, still hunger for the warmth of the living. Number 1, the cold room that won't stay locked in Bethlehem. Rachel Torres rented the basement apartment in Bethlehem because it was cheap and close to work. The building was old, historic, built in the 1800s, converted into apartments in the 60s. Her unit was small but functional. 1 bedroom, kitchen, bath, and in the back, a storage room. The landlord called it the cold room, said it had no heat, was built into the foundation, good for wine, for preservation. He gave her the key and said she could use it if she wanted, but his voice had an edge, a warning, like he was hoping she wouldn't. Rachel thought nothing of it. She took the key, thanked him, and moved in. The first week was normal. She unpacked, organized, set up her space. The cold room stayed closed. She didn't need storage, didn't have wine, didn't think about it, until she started hearing sounds at night, scratching coming from the back of the apartment, from the cold room, slow, deliberate, like fingernails on concrete. She told herself it was pipes, rats, old buildings made noise, but the scratching had rhythm, pattern, like someone was trying to dig, to claw, to break through. She called the landlord. He didn't answer. She texted. No response. She went to the cold room, pressed her ear against the door. The scratching stopped. Silence. She unlocked the door. It was freezing inside. Her breath fogged instantly. The walls were concrete, bare, gray, and covered in scratches, deep, frantic, thousands of them. covering every surface, like someone had spent years clawing at the walls, trying to escape. Rachel backed out, locked the door. She told herself it was old damage, previous tenants, vandalism. But that night, the scratching started again, louder, faster, more desperate. She went back. The door was open. She knew she'd locked it. She'd checked twice, but it was open. And inside, the scratches were worse, fresh, new marks over old ones, still flaking, still raw, and the temperature even colder, cold enough to hurt, cold enough to burn. She stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind her. She spun around, grabbed the handle. It wouldn't turn, locked. From the outside, she pounded, screamed. No one answered. The apartment building was old, thick walls, soundproof. She was alone, trapped, in a room with no heat, no light, and scratches that went all the way to the floor, to the corners, to places no human could reach. She heard breathing, not hers, someone else, in the room with her. She felt it, cold breath on her neck, on her face, smelling like earth, like decay, like something buried. She pulled out her phone, the flashlight app, shined it around the room. Nothing, just walls, just scratches, just cold. And then the light went out, battery dead, but it had been fully charged. She pressed against the door, waited, prayed, and after what felt like hours, she heard footsteps. Outside, the landlord. He'd gotten her messages, come to check on her. He opened the door. Rachel stumbled out, crying, shaking, hypothermic. He took one look at the cold room and went pale. He said he'd told the previous tenant, told everyone, don't go in there, don't open that door. But people never listened. People were always curious, always stupid. Rachel asked what was in there, what happened. The landlord closed the door, locked it, and told her. In 1873, a woman was locked in that room. Punishment. She'd been accused of witchcraft, of evil. The family locked her in, left her to freeze, to starve. They said if she was innocent, God would save her. He didn't. She died in there, alone, in the dark, in the cold, clawing at the walls, begging to be let out. And every tenant since, every person who's opened that door, hears her, feels her. Some have been locked in. Some have seen her, pale, frozen, fingers bloody, still trying to escape, still scratching, still suffering. Rachel moved out the next day, but the building still stands. The apartment is still rented, and tenants still report the same thing, the cold room, the scratches, and at night, the sound of someone clawing, digging, trying to get out, trying to escape a prison that ended over a century ago. But the dead don't know time, don't understand release. They just know cold and dark, and the desperate need to be free, to be warm, to be alive again. If these stories made your heart race, if you're looking over your shoulder right now, hit that like button and subscribe, because here at Chills from Reality, the fear doesn't end when the story does. These places are real, these towns exist, and somewhere in the dark, something is still waiting, still watching, still scratching at the walls between their world and ours.